Okay, we're recording.
We had actually.
Hey everybody, tell the people online hello.
Well, they're coming around. They're still coming.
All right, everyone. Let's pray. Just take a deep breath. Take another deep breath. Just allow yourself to just let go of the outside world so you can be clear in this now moment. As we go within, we seek the power and the presence of the essence of our soul, which is that of God. It is the source of all that is good. And as we peel away the layers of error thoughts that are in the way, we become a clear channel for our highest good to manifest. Thank you, God. Amen.
Thank you.
So, I kind of asked this question last week, and when it comes to, are y'all passing those things around?
Yes, I was asleep.
Do we have another one?
I think we do. Hold on.
Do we have any
That's
other?
Cheers.
Marge.
Do we have any
That's
other?
Judy's.
There's other copies.
Judy's here. Yes, I was getting her a copy. Okay, now, Judy a copy, and then those could go.
Thank you.
We're good.
I apologize.
There's a chair there and a chair there.
It's like down above the scale. Here, we got a chair right here, sweetheart. We can pull this right on around to the side.
I don't know, my mom is here.
Oh, for Mom.
Well,
Here, I'll just
move
down
here.
here.
Oh,
Two
Amy,
chairs.
you get one of these?
Good for
So, when it comes to prayer, how many of you found yourself praying last week?
Last week?
I mean, realize that what you were doing was, did you consciously say, okay, I'm taking some time to go to prayer?
Yes.
You know?
No.
Now, how was that for you?
I just do.
Was it difficult? Was it easy?
Easy.
Easy. Okay. You know, last week we talked about that we're always praying. And it's those times that we're not conscious is what gets us in trouble. You know what I mean by that? It's when we start going off on stuff that we don't like, someone we are upset with, and then we start sending out that energy, and then our life turns into caca. We have to really, truly realize that whatever it is we are seeing in another person is being generated by us, the individual. And if you allow someone else to be just as they are, then you are free. You see that?
Yeah.
You are free to love them from that divine essence at the core of your being. And when that happens, things shift for you. Things shift for everybody. As long as we continue to focus on what the problems are, we're only going to be creating more problems. So I just keep reiterating that because that is the basis for our understanding to practice affirmative prayer. Because without affirmative prayer, we're asking God to do something and then we're going against what we're asking. We have to get into alignment with this divine truth. And it's nothing new. In fact, I'd like for you to take a look here at the page that I handed out. And for you at home, I have sent those to you in a PDF format. And so you can download those from your email and print them out or just read them on your computer screen. So it's about positive prayer, and it says, "And my God will supply every need of yours according to his riches in the glory of Christ Jesus. To our God and Father be the glory forever and ever. Amen." Philippians 4:19 through 20. I want you to think about this. What this particular scripture here is saying is that God is your source. That God is your source of supply. Now we ask God to give us what it is we want, but it's already there. Again, I'm going to keep reiterating, whatever it is that you think you're lacking, it's already there in God's mind. It's already there. There's nothing absent in the mind of God. Nothing. The absence is our belief that we don't have it. And affirmative prayer helps us align ourselves to that we already have it. And in time it will manifest in its perfect right way, time, and order. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and read a little bit about this. It says, positive prayer is not new. It is at least as ancient as Judaism, which nurtured the spiritual life of Jesus from infancy to manhood. Now, we're going to talk a lot today about Jesus and his teachings. And I know that we have some people who are not Christians who watch this and who may be participating in this particular program that we are doing. But I want to assure you that what we're talking about here is Jesus in this particular mode as a teacher and talking about his life is not a matter of worshiping the man. It's a matter of taking his teachings and learning how to implement those spiritual truths into our life. Okay? So we truly honor these teachings and that they are at the forefront to help guide us. In unity, we believe that the Christ which Jesus embodied, which was the idea of God enthroned in man, that we believe that he was the one who, at this point in time and space, has had the greatest demonstration of that. The Jewish idea that there is the presence of God that is within us is far greater actually in the Kabbalah, or the Kabbalah, whichever way you wish to pronounce it, which is more the mystical side of Judaism. Unity is more on the mystical side of Christianity. So therefore, what goes on in the Jewish faith from the Kabbalah, or what unity is teaching, and then what Buddhism teaches and what Hinduism teaches, it's all the mystical side of life, which doesn't mean that it's a mystery. It is just a different way of seeing things in our lives. So the metaphysical, meaning again, as you all know, is the above the physical, which is the spiritual principles that we wish to engage in. Okay? So positive prayer is not new. It is as ancient as Judaism. I say it was even before that. If you study some of the other sacred texts of different religions, you'll see it in there as well, which nurtured the spiritual life of Jesus' infancy to manhood. It is a form of prayer taught and used by Jesus throughout his ministry and by his disciples in Paul. It consists of statements such as the above excerpt, which acknowledges that God is already supplying whatever good thing we need. Now, I want us to stop here. We have got to understand and get clear in our heads and in our belief system is that God is only good. God is only good. Any thought of the opposite, that there's any other thing opposite of God, is a lie. It's not true. Now, we can create and utilize the energy of God to create evil in our world, but that's just a misuse of the presence and the power and the principle that God is good. In unity, we give no power to the devil. Now, if somebody believes in the devil, we understand, we accept and acknowledge that they believe in the devil, okay? And that's okay for them, but you don't have to believe that. Personally, I don't believe that there is a devil. I do not believe in Satan because my mind is focused only on God, the good, omnipotent. There is only one presence, one power. So, whenever you think that there's any sort of separation out there, it's not out there. The separation is in our thought. And that's where we get ourselves confused. Because our mind isn't open yet to understand and then to live from that awareness that there is only God and it is only good. Just as any parent would not want any one of their children to suffer, however, we know that our children do suffer. And so sometimes we try to fix them, but maybe the best thing we can do for our children is to love them as they learn their lessons in life. Tough stuff. Real tough stuff. Maybe it might be with your husband or your wife. Maybe it might be with someone in the church. But you have to understand that their journey is their journey. So when it comes to prayer, we are only asking for the highest and best, and we don't know what that is for anybody, including ourselves. Do you really know what's highest and best for you? Do you? I mean, honestly, you know what you want, the desires that you have the wishes. But do you really know if that's really good? You know, I wanted a Mercedes. I was 18 years old and thought that I needed a Mercedes to impress the ladies. Mercedes ladies. So I had a Ford Pinto station wagon. Not cutting it. So I go off to college and I see in the newspaper that someone is selling their Mercedes. Oh my God, it was beautiful. Just beautiful. I mean, this was an older one. It had actual burl wood. It wasn't plastic, but it had actual burl wood. It had a sunroof. Oh my God, it didn't run worth crap, but it looked good.
Pushing it isn't going to cut it either, Daddy.
So I sold my Pinto station wagon that my parents had helped me get. Not good. Not good. Without their permission, without them knowing, and I bought this, and I had payments I had to make because I took a loan out on it to pay off the rest part. So I had this beautiful Mercedes. It didn't do me a bit of good. In fact, one time I came to Florida on vacation when I was in my second year of college. And a friend of mine and I flew down here, and I went to the Detroit airport. I parked the car, feeling really good, you know. I'm driving a Mercedes. Parking in the Detroit parking lot in the airport garage. And when it came down to Florida, came back, and all the bumpers were gone. They stole the bumpers. There were 4 sections of bumpers because they were chrome. It was back in the day when they had real chrome.
Yeah.
Okay? But I thought that the best thing for me to do was to have a Mercedes because it would make me, you know, lucky with the ladies.
It didn't work, did it?
No. But I thought I knew what was best and highest for me. Well, it was best and highest in a certain way. It taught me a lesson. Okay? I don't regret having that Mercedes because it taught me. And then I ended up having to leave it there when I moved to Florida because it wouldn't make it all the way down here because the transmission was going out. Anyway, so just think of a time where you thought you knew. Where you thought you knew what was very the highest and best, what it is you wanted, and you ended up getting it, and then you found out that that wasn't it. Anybody?
Oh,
You can tell a story. People want to hear your story. Okay, Kathy, tell me a story.
Being I'm extremely headstrong.
You, headstrong?
Yeah. My parents were totally against me marrying my husband, which is what I wanted. I didn't listen to reason. I didn't listen to anything. I was doing this, and I did it. And then 20 years later, realized, oh my God, this is, well, way before the 20-year mark, realized what a big mistake this is. And it was. For me, it was not what I thought it would be.
So, did you become bitter?
No.
You saw it as a learning experience? Did you make them wrong so you could be right, so you
No,
could get out of it?
no.
Oh, that's what a lot of people.
I don't know if I used it as a learning experience. I remember saying to God, if you just let me get out of here in one piece, I won't ask for anything else.
Have you kept that promise?
No.
Partnering with God, yes.
But, you know, I have this ongoing thing all my life, I think, with God. I mean, I even said, God, do you think this is a good idea? Should I marry him? You know, my parents are so against it. And I really thought God said yes.
Well, maybe God did say
You
yes.
know, he said, sure.
Maybe God always says yes.
So, and I did. But it was a later on, afterthought, it was a learning experience. I acquired 2 wonderful sons out of it. So when you acquire your children out of something, I mean, you can't say it's bad. That would be not good for them.
So there's something good in everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it made me who I am today.
Mm-hmm.
It made me value other people's, I mean, I never heard of the word abuse. I never heard of the word people hitting people. That was not in my life. And so when find yourself in a situation where you're married into this, you kind of appreciate what other people go through.
Yeah.
It makes you look at other people and say, well, maybe they didn't do. Because at the time, it was always, if you were female, you were wrong. What didn't you do right? I can remember people saying that to me. What didn't you do right? Why must you aggravate him? If you didn't aggravate him, he wouldn't do these things.
Yeah, right.
It was back in those days. And now those were the things you got told.
Those days are still here.
Yes, they are.
And
People
they
still
shouldn't be.
say that
And
they're
they shouldn't
things to
be.
women.
It's terrible because they shouldn't be. And I'm a firm, strong supporter of abused women. I really am. And I would speak out against it anytime I could because it's not you. It's
Because
them.
you know. Because you know.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it was a good learning experience.
Okay, so with God, in all the midst of all of this, some people would blame God for this happening. Now, I'm just saying, now take a look around you.
Yeah.
Hello, it might not be you, but there may be
Right.
someone who you know or come in contact with, that they're blaming God. God, why did you have this happen?
Right.
God, why is there war? God, why is there abuse?
I know
God,
somebody-
why is there
yeah, I
AIDS?
know somebody
God,
that
why
does
is there
that.
cancer? And we get really, really, really mad. Okay? And we get mad at God, and some people walk away from having any sort of, trying to have any sort of relationship with God because they are angry. See, now that goes back to my lessons about emotions. Our emotions get in the way. Our emotions get in the way for clear communication. God always says yes.
I have a question. Trying to figure out your highest and best good, when you were wanting that Mercedes, if it had been because, would it have been your highest and best good if your intent was to have a better vehicle rather than to impress the girls? It has nothing, highest and best good has nothing to do with intent.
Your highest and best good is the mystery.
Oh, you're a lot of help.
The highest and best, okay, understand, if you can, just take a breath and hear this. Your highest and best good is always happening, no matter what choice you make.
No matter how it turns out or looks.
And no matter how it turns out, your highest
how
and
you
best,
make
because
it turn
God
out.
is always there in the midst of. Jim!
Well, I appreciate you bringing it up because now I have the answer. You said God always says yes. This is the reason I stayed in so much trouble.
That's right, because God says yes. You go right ahead. You go right ahead, and I'll be right there with you. And this is really difficult for us because we want God to govern us. And God says, I have given you free will. I have given you the ability to choose, to direct, and to live your life in accord to how you need to live your life so you can awaken to your highest and
It
best.
takes a long time to learn
It's
this.
a lifetime, maybe
Yes.
many lifetimes.
Many lifetimes. Yes.
Because if God's saying yes, my parents are saying no, then naturally I'm not going to go with the parents
Right.
or God either. So
How often do you go with the
I'm
parents?
out there drifting, not knowing what to do.
And that's our journey. We don't know what we're doing. Are you really? Aren't you just making stuff up as you go?
Is God really saying yes?
Yeah,
God is not going to. God is always there.
Yeah.
So wherever you go, the presence of God is. What you do with the energy of God is your choice, but God is always there. So it's like kind of like saying, yeah, like if you want to buy a Mercedes, you go ahead. There's still good in this for you. There's a lesson to be learned.
and I think part of that is.
And we don't like that
Right, yeah.
because we want God to stop us, to
Yes.
save us from what? Ourselves.
Yeah.
Ooh.
That's not the challenge.
And then there's no free will.
Or there'd be no free will.
And
Yeah.
you're creating a vengeful God and a wrathful God and all those kinds of gods.
We create the vengeful God, the wrathful God, by our own thoughts. Just like as I told the story about my grandmother a couple weeks ago. She believed in the devil so much that the devil chased her. I know of a minister here in Highlands County, after I first moved here, who believed in the devil so much that he kept seeing Satan, and he ended up being put away.
Whoa.
And he was a hellfire and brimstone minister who just truly embodied it, and he became that. And he became overcome by that. So you can't tell me it's not a reality. It's a reality to him, but the question is, do you want that? There's where self-responsibility lies. So no matter whatever choice that you make, God is in the midst of it and will help guide and direct. Like, oh, I've done this. This didn't work. What's next, God? That's a great prayer. That's a great prayer. What's next, God? And then follow the inner promptings. Take a left. Sell the Mercedes. Move on. Let that go. Let that person who has abused you walk away from that. Because you now know that's not how you want to live your life.
Right.
I guess I just never thought of him saying yes. I just thought of him saying, I'll be here with you and to go through it with you. But he's not saying yes or no. He's saying, I'll be with you.
Yeah.
That's it. And
That's what, it's
that's-
not a yes or a no, it's I'll just be with you.
yes. And that is the ultimate in reality of an absolute. God's always with us. But God is always going to honor our request in the regard to what direction that we are choosing. Just like electricity coming from the plug. It doesn't care if it's running this camera, and it doesn't care if it is turning on a light bulb, and it doesn't care if it burns the building down. It just is. It's there. And we get to harness it and choose how that energy flows in our life. And that's like, man, I don't want that responsibility. But God has given you the mind to be able to choose and to learn and for us to unfold and to become aware. This is not easy stuff, and you don't have to agree. Yes?
Andy, how much of life do you think is meant to be, or is it the choices and the free will? Because I think everything's meant to be, no matter what your choices are.
It is all meant to be.
So how do you pick and choose?
It's my matter of whatever it is that you decide to choose to focus on and view and create.
You know, I had the same story with the Mercedes, by the way.
I was wonder I like you.
I was in Los Angeles, and the image there is cars and women and all that. So I tried really hard to get this Mercedes, and I did everything to get it. I finally got it. Then someone said, how would you like to be a big brother? I said, sure, I'll be a big brother. I took the car to where you go after you go through the process. And I met this little boy, and he said, I like basketball. So I took him to downtown Los Angeles to have him play basketball with me. I was there about 20 minutes. When I came back, the Mercedes was stripped. Totally stripped.
So that wasn't the answer. That wasn't the answer.
So I'm saying, like, I just got this thing, this car. The kids look at me. Oh, man, they got you. And it was just such a reality check there, how important that was to me. But yet I got it, and then I lost it. Meant to be.
Jesus and all the great spiritual teachers says it's not the stuff of this world that really matters. It's your consciousness. It's the way you believe and the way you think. It is the way in which you interact with the spiritual and the physical world, also knowing that they are reflections of one another. That they are a reflection of one another. So in our prayer work, What's most important is to only ask for the highest and best good and quit trying to tell God how you necessarily want it to be. Because we get ourselves, depending on where we are in consciousness, into a lot of trouble. So we affirm, like for instance in healing, we affirm divine health moving in and through an individual. Because we know that's their divine nature. And however that is supposed to manifest, divine health manifests in different ways for different people according to their consciousness and what's the highest and best for their soul. You see, it's learning about having a hands-off consciousness based in absolute trust of the highest and best coming in and through our loved ones, and even those we don't like.
And that varies within you from day to day.
And moment to moment. Half an hour from now could be completely different. When I catch myself starting to go in one direction, I say, whoa, 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 I'm not doing that. So then I have to readjust my consciousness. And then that realigns my energy to go in a direction that would be more for a higher and better good, hopefully. Hello? Kim?
I was supposed to go on vacation June 21st, and Andy had an accident. I was supposed to leave the next day, and my business partner had an accident, and he had surgery Friday on his back. So I didn't go anywhere. Well, Andy was very upset. You didn't get to go anywhere. I said, it's okay. It doesn't matter. I'm supposed to be here. This is where I'm supposed to be. I'm still packed. I'm going to have to unpack one day. However, it's all fine with me. Oh, you're going to miss your dad's 85th birthday. Yeah, I'm going to miss my dad's 85th birthday, but I'll call him on the phone. He's fine with it. I missed his birthday. He said, you'll come later. It's okay. I said, yeah, it's okay. I'll come later when I can. There was a big brawl at my dad's birthday. All heck broke loose. I said, thank you, God, for not having to be there. I got to miss all that. My niece calls me up crying. He cussed me out. He did this, he did that. I said, that's my dad. Just ignore it. What? I said, well, he's been that way as long as I've known him. You can't change that. You have to look at it and love him regardless of what he says and does. He doesn't mean it. He loves you. He just has a weird way of showing it. Well, our conversation has been going back and forth, and she's finally accepted it. They're talking again. Everything is just going as it should, all because you just let it go. You don't be angry that you didn't get to go on vacation. They're overrated. You just let it go. I'll have a vacation. One of these days I'll go somewhere, and it'll all be great. But everything is just like it should be right now.
And when you're in that consciousness, what your heart's desire is manifests quicker. Okay?
Manifest quicker.
It manifests quicker in your heart's desire because you are not trying to drive the
Drive the boat.
Yeah, drive the boat. You're letting God flow through you, and you are in the flow of divine life. Okay? And things manifest when there is less when you resist something, you're giving the energy there, and so what you don't want is going to manifest. So what happens if you stop doing that? You get into divine order. And in divine order, things manifest so beautifully. You've all had that, haven't you? It's like, oh my God, I couldn't have done this any better. Why does that happen? Because you have not been in charge of and saying, this is the way it's got to be. You are in the divine flow, and you are loving and accepting that you are in the divine flow. And you're going to be in that anyway, but we're the ones who kind of mess up the picture, you know? Have any of you ever gotten really focused on something and you kept saying, oh, this has got to change, this needs to change a little bit, you know? It's got to tweak it over here, got to tweak it over there, and oh, you got to go back over here and try to get... You know what I'm saying? Do any of you ever do things like that with your own life?
Yeah.
How about if you just give it all up and say, here I am, Lord, here I am. Surrender and allow yourself to go into your natural flow. There's where we have no resistance. there is where we are open channel through which God can work His greatest and mighty good.
A lot of people think surrender is giving up, Andy. I think that's
Oh,
a
it's the
problem
last
with
thing in
that.
the world. It's not giving up.
Yeah.
It is allowing. It is allowing and understanding that there is a power greater than yourself. Your ego says you're going to give up. You're going to give up. The deal is that you're not giving up anything other than power to your ego, and your ego is going to fight it. And so are your friend's ego going to fight.
It's accepting.
It's accepting that there is a power greater than yourself. And when you really get that, a lot of times the only time that comes is when we are face down in the dirt. And we lose. And we have to call uncle. And that's when I give up, God, I give up. Everything that I see from a metaphysical point of view of all the stories of the Bible all move us toward that major point of learning that surrender is the answer. Surrender is the answer. Acceptance is the key. If you want to be happy, you have to accept other people are just as they are. It's not your business how they are. They got their own stuff to deal with. Just love them anyway, or not.
And you've got to accept what they think of you is not your business.
Oh, God, yes.
You
It's
got
not-
to give that up.
It has nothing to do with you. It's got
That was a hard
nothing to do with you.
Other people's opinions.
Yeah. You know what they say about opinions?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
And everybody's got them. So, and most of them stink. Just saying. That's all. Moving on into here. In Matthew 6, 25 through 35 through 34, speaks a lot about, listen to the consciousness of what Jesus was holding, okay? Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life. Oh, yeah?
Buy another Mercedes.
My life isn't working right now. You can't tell me not to be anxious. Who says you have to be? What if you surrendered your anxiety? This is all again about learning to let God and let go. It's all about learning. Tell you not to be anxious about your life, what you shall eat and what you shall drink, or about your body that you shall put, what you shall put on. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? Is that not true? Think about that. Is it not more than your material things, your worries and your concerns? Is life not more than that? If you don't think that there's something more than that, then you're caught in the world of materiality. And then you live a life of attachments. You attach yourself in the meaning of your life to everything that you have. And we project our energy and our emotions onto these things, and we're like, oh my God, I couldn't live without air conditioning.
Yes, you do.
And you can. And you can also learn that it's okay to be without air conditioning. Even in Florida, you can learn that. Now you can fight that. But if you'd rather have air conditioning, what do? You go out and work toward creating air conditioning for yourself, because you know that that's an option. Now for some people, they don't think it is an option. But it is. Okay? But we attach our sense of being to the stuff we have. You know? Like, how does your hair look today? Okay? How does your hair look today? I don't have to worry about that. We attach our sense of security on our physicality. What if you were just happy with who you were? As you are. I mean, you're that anyway. That's one of the hardest aspects of life, is to learning to accept things as they are now. And that as we view them is colored by the way that we have put our life together, by our judgments, and what we think is right and what we think is wrong. Goes on to say, think of the birds of the air. They neither toil Are they neither sow nor reap or gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them?
Me too.
So how many of you have a hoarding problem?
Oh, me.
Now, I have to tell you something, okay? I like backup. You know what backup is?
Oh, yeah, I got lots of that.
When I buy toilet paper, I buy a case at a time.
Well, we had that shortage, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to
I don't want to
prepare.
be like they are in other countries. Now, this does not come from, my family always had enough. But I like to always make sure I have backup. So if I get to a half a case, it's time to go to Sam's and get a case of toilet paper. And get a case of paper towels.
That says a lot about him.
It says a lot about me. Yeah, ketchup. Oh my God, don't ever go without having a backup bottle of ketchup. You never know when you're going to need that extra bottle.
It's mayonnaise in my house.
Mayonnaise in your house? We have 2 different kinds of mayonnaise. Always, there's 2 in backup.
What
Our
do you say
pantry
about
is-
toilet paper?
I have to have a backup.
I have backup on my toilet paper.
I had backup on my backup.
And a case full. Well, because it's cheaper, okay? Cheaper by the case. So,
I'm a
what I'm saying
processed
is that controls your life. It controls a part of my life. And Tina says, do we really need to have 2 cases of toilet paper? There's 48 rolls in a case.
2 people.
For 2 people. Yes. It's always best.
You never know.
You never know.
Did you run out of toilet paper at one time?
I have no idea. I know that, yes. At one point in time and space, this is a horrible story. When I was back in my drinking days, I ran out of toilet paper and I went to a condominium that had an outdoor pool that I knew that they had a bathroom there. And I stole toilet paper from them. I didn't have any money for toilet paper. And when I started doing my 4th step, started going through my inventory and all of that, that came up. And so one night I snuck back in and I gave them a whole bunch of toilet paper. I just put it in there to help make my amends. But you know, that was like, oh my God. That played a role. And it also taught me to always make sure you have toilet paper.
By the case.
In Cork's family, if this is good, then this much has to be better. So I don't dare send him to the store alone.
Yes, yes.
Because he'll come back with all this stuff that I feel we don't need at the moment, knowing what's in the checkbook. So it's like, ah! We are,
My dad was one, if 2 Anderson work, 3 is better.
yes.
Serious. But if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is alive and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not so much clothe you, O men of little faith? I'm going to say, O women of little faith as well. Therefore do not be anxious, saying, what will we eat and what shall we drink, and what will we drink, and his righteousness and all these things shall be given yours as well. Therefore do not be anxious about tomorrow, for tomorrow will be anxious for itself. In other words, this is Jesus trying to say here, look, God is your source. God already has it covered. Are you willing to trust that? You know, how many of you have ever said in the prayer, okay, God, I give it over to you, and the next thing you know is you've taken it back. We see, that's what we do. But it doesn't mean that that works well. What if you completely surrender and say, I'm done. I'm done with this. I watch, there's an old adage, like with death and bad things, 3s. Comes in 3s. And it does. We start looking for them, and they start showing up. So, oh my God, you know.
One more.
Just one more, and then I'll be okay. What if you on the first one said, enough? I'm not doing this anymore. God, I let it go. I just let it go. I let it go. I let it go. Be gone. You have no power in my life. We'll talk about that as an operative way of using affirmative prayer. Now, any questions so far? Are you kind of getting a sense about where you are in your awareness and your beliefs when it comes to prayer? Using figures of speech that everyone can understand, Jesus was saying that God is not only the benevolent, generous Father of us all, which Jesus later described in the parable of the prodigal son in Luke. But God is also divine mind, an eternal and ever-present, all-wise, all-powerful principle of absolute good, which both governs and acts as the cosmic process that creates and sustains the universe. Jesus knew that God is always at work to supply every created thing with what it requires to express the nature it is created to express. Now that is a mouthful. We don't know what we were created to express. We just have to proclaim it's only for the highest and best good. And that's God's intention for us. Your soul has a divine purpose. Most people on this planet will never know what their divine purpose is. But people around you will know what that divine purpose is. Maybe you are a teacher to them to say, God, I don't want to be like them. Maybe that was your role in their life. And then the next person next to them may say, that person is the most loving and most accepting and most helpful person I've ever met. You see? We play so many different roles we're not even aware. Think of someone in your life that has made a tremendous impact on you. Whether it be something that was comfortable or uncomfortable. Everybody have one? Do you ever think that they are there, part of their soul's purpose was just for us in that moment? And for us to be able to help govern or help to awaken, to take where it can get us to where we are now? And we're not at the end yet. Anybody want to share any stories? Charlie.
Oh, I'm sorry, Linda, you go.
My sister's husband committed suicide, and she called me, which I was like 20 miles away. I lived 20 miles away from her. And of course I was in shock because he was always a happy-go-lucky, I mean, he was just a really nice guy, and I had lived with him for a couple of years between graduating high school and getting married and so forth. I just couldn't imagine it, but when I went there, I really didn't say anything or do anything, but just my presence seemed to help her, and I don't know why it was me, and she's got 5 other sisters, you know, but, so that made a big impact.
Yes, absolutely. Not only on you, but on her. Mostly, I mean, I'm sure on her, but then you begin to find some worth in that. And take a look at how that works out for you today. How many people are you at their bedside?
Several.
Yeah. You do that a lot. Because you know that it has value. And that is a part of the purpose of your soul. Is to be there in times when people are going through their transition. And that's not everybody's job. That's something that's very, very special. You know? And thank God for Linda's. Thank God for Linda's. Charlie.
Oh, I was thinking, at this very moment, I take care of a little gentleman who's quite challenged. My older sister seems to have similar behavior. Another dear lady that I'm kind of friends with has very similar behavior. And all of a sudden I'm noticing all this around me and I'm going, why is everybody out there behaving in such a weird way? And then I thought, you suppose it's me? So when I changed, they changed.
You became aware that there's a point within you that needs to be shifted. And it could just be that you shift on how you see them. And I think that that's probably the greatest thing you can do for another person, is to live in a life of compassion, is to shift your consciousness away from thinking that they're wrong, you're right, and realizing that they are just doing the best they can coming from where they come from. Right here and right now. It's not going to stay that way. Sometimes it takes years for them to actually evolve. I've been here 26 years and I've been watching people evolve. Some people evolve a lot quicker than others. Some people that I have spent more time in prayer, holding the high watch for them as they suffer and suffer and suffer and suffer and then begin to change. Because I refuse to see them as being a victim. I only see the Christ within them, and I call forth that Christ every time they're in crisis. And even when they're not in crisis, whenever they come to my mind. That's my prayer work. That's what I bring to the world. Okay? And now I'm beginning to watch the transformation that's happening, especially in one individual. I'm watching the transformation happen, where before I would have dismissed this individual and said, get that H out of my life. Seriously, I want nothing to do with you, nothing with your kind, da-da-da-da-da-da. And you've all done that, haven't you? Be honest. You kicked him out. But I said, no, this person is here for me to see the difference. Years ago when I had a cleaning business, majority of my clients were people that nobody liked. People in the cleaning industry, okay? Like if they were at a maid service or this, that, and the other. They say, how in the world could you work for someone who was so picky, so they're nasty, and da-da-da-da-da. I mean, they would spew this, and I said, I've never seen that in them. I have never once been treated poorly by the people which employ us. Never once. But they treated me, they ripped me off, and I'm thinking, are you not trying to rip them off? By not doing your job? This is the question. Not as a judgment on you, but just as the question. So think about that. Just think about that for a moment in your life. Who are those individuals that you have dismissed? Could you not see them differently? If you see them differently, then they change. My parents changed. My brother changed. You have changed. Because I've had judgments on you, and I know you've had judgments on me, because I hear people talking about your judgments on me. Can't get away with nothing around here. And like Margie said earlier, it's none of my business what somebody else's opinion is of me. It's about how I feel about me and my relationship with my God. Now, affirmative prayer will get that for you. Affirmative prayer gets you in alignment and allows everybody else to be where they are and go through what they need to do. And if you had a wounded bird, would you dismiss it or would you love it? Would you try to help it? Would you not give it your love? Well, don't you realize that we're all like a wounded bird? We all walk around. Sometimes major wounds are seen on the outside, but for the most part, they're hidden in our hearts. But they show up in our actions. So our prayer work is very, very important. It's to holding what Linda Kirkow, I always want to call her Linda Pye, used to say, let's hold the high watch.
That's it.
Remember that, Jim? Linda always saying, let's hold the high watch. Let's see the highest and best for that person. Get your stuff out of the way. Your stuff means nothing. And then there's some techniques, we'll talk about that in just a little while.
The next sentence in that paragraph is the answer to the whole thing.
Okay, want to read it?
He knew that human beings are created to express the image, likeness of God. Period. That's us. The same energy that's in Jesus is in us. And that's what we're here to do. And how many of us believe that, know that? And Jesus said, have I not told you, ye are gods?
Further down, it talks a little bit more about what he says.
When we get to that state of consciousness, all the rest of this is a moot point.
Yeah.
Period.
You're able to walk in the world, but not be of the world. You're able to be the presence of love in the midst of hate. And your presence of love is what transforms the world. It's what heals. It's what heals us. It brings us into the awareness of our connectedness, not only with God, but with each other. And once you have an aha moment on that, your life can never be the same. Now, you may go back and try some of those other practices, but you know you're lying to yourself. You know, them and me, them and me. No, it's we. It's we. It's us. My favorite story of Jesus' life when it comes to positive prayer is the story of Lazarus. And I use that as a beginning point a lot in my prayer work. Let's say, for instance, someone's come to me and they've got some sort of malady going on, whether it be health or emotions or psychological or spiritual crisis or whatever, money, whatever it is. Jesus was called. We call forth the Christ within us. And just listen to this, how this plays out. Jesus was called by his family to come to the aid. Okay? They were not wanting to accept. That's part of the denial. Okay? Denying that this is true. Kind of all plays here. We'll talk a little bit about that later. So, Jesus comes and he calls forth and sees only the life force within Lazarus. Now, he's been dead 3 days. It even says in the scripture that he smelt. That ain't good. That ain't good. But Jesus saw beyond that. Saw beyond the physical. And knowing that God is life, God is the divine energy of the universe, he called it forth. And Lazarus was raised from the dead. Lazarus is not the only person in our stories that came back to life. Every great religion has those stories. In Christianity, Jesus came back to life. Judaism, it was Lazarus. You know? I mean, you think about it. All the great religions talk about the life force. He gave thanks because he knew, not here, but knew that gratitude creates an energy. And he called it forth through this physical being. So, if someone comes to you and they have a health problem, what do? Oh my God, they've got cancer. No. If you do that, you're focusing on the wrong situation. Focus on the life and the energy and the wholeness of God, the healing essence of God, and call it forward. Giving thanks. Thank you, God, for your healing presence that's moving in and through someone right now. Now that's affirmative prayer. This was a demonstration, a story to tell us about it. And the affirmative prayer is that Jesus called forth the life force. Now, you can believe that as being a reality, or you can believe it as a story, but I'm telling you as a principle, that's the way affirmative prayer works. He didn't say it had to show up in a certain way. He just saw, knew, affirmed, and gave thanks for the life force that was within Lazarus. And that came forth. Now, he still may have been stinking. The Bible doesn't talk about that. I mean, I don't know if he came out of the tombs, smelling like roses. But it's the story that tells you of a principle. Okay? So I want you to think about something that is going on in your life. I'm going to take a short break here. Something going on in your life right now. And how could you look at that differently and call forth the life force of God to move through that situation? For instance, if you don't have any money, if you're short on money, how about if you release that? Release your fear around it. Well, that's so difficult. Well, you got to do it. You got to surrender that thought. It's just a thought you're surrendering. And start to affirm that God is my source. I am filled with the richness of spirit. I draw to me massive amounts of I am a mighty magnet, and I draw to me massive amounts of money. Why not? Well, money's the root of all evil. No, it's the love of money. Money is part of the physical world. There's nothing wrong with having money. There's nothing wrong with it all. But if you make it your God, then what you're doing is that you are negating your source. Does that make any sense? So how about I am richly blessed? Every aspect of my life is divinely blessed. I am rich. I live in an opulent universe. You do. And once your mind begins to open up to see that reality, then you begin to experience that reality. But it has to start somewhere. And it's already there in the mind of God. It's already there. Already there. So we're going to take a short break. Use the potty if you wish. Get up and stretch. And we'll be back in a few moments.
Time already?
Pardon?
You gonna close it?
Yeah, they're struggling.
Get those submissions done.
I didn't
All day yesterday trying to find.
After the church.
I don't worry about the church. That's Ken's drive.
Somewhere these moving and cleaning, they got put out.